Did you record?
No, not yet.
Welcome to the Talking to Podcast, episode 20 or 21 or 22. We don't know. We're so professional.
Lost count. I lost count.
We've been on for a while, guys. So yeah. No, welcome to the Talking to Podcast, episode 20-ish. So Omar Nicholas, who actually has his name out this time.
Trying to get it right.
We got a lot to discuss this episode. A lot's been going on. We took a hiatus week, and it's time to talk about things. Let me just first start saying this. Look, looks like spring's out, right? Things like the country's back to normal, right? Got a shooting in Kentucky a couple weeks ago, shooting in Georgia a couple weeks ago, shooting in Colorado a couple weeks ago. So yeah, country's getting back to normal. And of course, Black people getting persecuted and shot by the police, that's always been normal. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Yeah, just so much going on. We're also going to talk about the law proposed by French Senate. So Omar's going to really take point on that one. But yeah, let's talk about the big one this week. That's the Daunte Wright case. So I don't know if you guys have seen the video. I've seen the video once. Don't need to see the video again. And so Daunte Wright was someone who was shot by a police officer who thought that they were being tased. Thought that it was actually tasing the person. So just going through play-by-play of the video that I saw and just description of what's been reported. So he was pulled over for expired tags. Okay. He had a misdemeanor warrant, right? When the cops found this out, they decided to try to arrest him. He got back into his car, right? And when this happened, the cop of 26 years, right? A 26-year cop who was training another police officer at the time, right? Pulled out her gun.
Sorry, also the head of their local police union, by the way.
Oh yeah, thank you for reminding that. Yeah, also head of the local police union, pulled out her gun, who thought it was a taser, and shot Mr. Devontae in the
Dante.
Is Dante? I'm sorry.
Dante.
I think I have it spelled as a V on my paper. I'm sorry, Dante. Daunte Wright. And like he just shot him and eventually killed him, right? So just kind of like my thoughts on this as well. And I know like we initially didn't want to like watch the video for this. People, of course, don't want to talk about this, but I think we have to talk about this. This is how we come up with some solution. My initial thoughts when it happened was one of two folds. Was it negligence on the police officer's part or negligence on the police department's part, right? Because you would think that there's some sort of protocols in place where a cop should be able to tell the difference between their gun and their taser, right? Especially a 26-year veteran of the police force who is president of the union, right? And regardless of that, of who was the negligent one, which seems to be the cop. She was the negligent one. It just shows a lack of like value of life, right? And I remember it shows a lack of value of life, and it frustrates me. Like, how little do you care about people's lives, right? When you make that sort of mistake, right? And I saw a quote by Trevor Noah talking about like we think of like the police department as a few bad apples, right? But not the whole batch is bad. And what we need to really think about it is that it's actually a bad tree, a rotten tree that just so happens to breed a few good apples, essentially, right? So the way I see it is we need to defund the police or restructure the police if defund is too offensive to you, and like really start over. Because let's face it, these mistakes that are happening right now, Black people are suffering for this, right? People of color are suffering for this. So I'll end like my turn there and definitely defer to you guys as to like what do you guys think and what are your thoughts, and by all means please share.
So for me, like when I see these headlines now, I kind of just take a deep breath, right? It's just like, here we go again. Why is this normal now? You know, and it's not, I guess it's not so much that it's normal, it's just that like the video is so readily available, you know, the power of the internet, everything gets shared like at the snap of a finger. But every time you see one of these incidents, it's always like it's negligence on the officer, or they try to say it's an accident or some BS like that, or they try to say that, you know, it was a threat. And now you have this woman saying like, I can't tell my taser from my gun, or you know, she picked up the wrong thing maybe in the heat of the moment or something like that. But it's like, if you're a 26-year veteran, you know where your stuff is on your person. If you watch the video, I think he was trying to like turn and, you know, get away or something like that. So if he's trying to get away, he's not a threat. So pulling your gun isn't even necessary. Using the taser, like, is it really necessary? You know, I don't know. And then it also makes me wonder, you know, for traffic cops, are firearms really necessary? He was pulled over for, I think, expired tags.
Right.
And when I was looking at the interview of like, I think the police chief in the area, a lot of the reporters were asking like, you know, are you and your staff aware of the fact that during the pandemic, there's a backlog on requests for new tags, to get registered? There's a backlog. So you're going to see a lot more people with expired tags.
I was waiting to say that.
Yeah. So if the staff is aware of that, why are we so willing to pull someone over? Right? You know, I don't get that. And then it's just, you know, I don't know. It's to me, like you said, obviously we talk about like restructuring the police. The first thing that comes to mind for me is like, you need to look at who in the police department actually needs or requires a firearm. You know, for a simple traffic stop, speeding tickets, tags, headlights, those types of stops. Is a firearm required? I really don't think so. So, I'll stop. You know,
I think that's a really tough case to make, and I think that entails actually a much larger conversation. But so one of the points though that I was going to make, Nicholas, you said it right, expired tags. So several months ago, maybe up to like 5-6 months ago at the most, in the state of Virginia, Governor Northam actually made new laws which have changed. So there's some things called primary offenses and things called secondary offenses, right? Secondary offenses are things that you can't get pulled over for as a primary reason. That's why they're secondary offenses. And well, I've already explained what a primary offense is. So now expired tags up to 4 months are considered a secondary offense. Your headlights out, you know, or basically things like that, or tints, those are secondary offenses. And the reason Governor Northam did this is because he wants to eliminate or help reduce, anything like this happening, these ridiculous traffic stops, which are made to target minorities. So, and going back on the case, right, like, you know, why need a taser? Why need a gun? Now, in my opinion, I think if the officer had used a taser, I think she could have gotten out of this, right, legally. But you're talking about a 30 ounce, a standard 9mm gun is about 30 ounces or so. And the weight of a taser, whether it was yellow or whether it was black, whatever it is, it's significantly lighter. And the fact that the kid I think he was like running away. Why would you try to fire at them? I didn't have the heart to watch the video. So was he running away?
Yeah, so what happened was that they put the cuffs on him, right? When they found out that he had a warrant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually I haven't confirmed this report, but apparently the warrant was because they sent like information to the wrong house and he missed a court date. That's just a rumor, so I haven't actually confirmed that.
So it was a bench warrant, potentially.
Yes. But he had a warrant, and then he tried to get back into his car, right? And then the woman pulled out her gun. She goes, "You're gonna get tased," and then she yells, tase, shoot. And then she goes, oh shit, I shot him, right?
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
he drove off.
I read that.
Right. As you said, Omar, yeah, there's protocols in place that prevents this kind of mistake from happening, right? Taser
Yeah.
being held on one side, the taser actually, from what I've read
There
from the
you
New
go.
York Times, at
Yeah.
least. Yeah,
Yeah.
from what I read from the New York Times, obviously I'm not a cop, would love a cop to like give me their perspective, but a taser is held on the weak side, and is turned a different way, right?
Yeah.
So it takes, I think, a little bit more work to get a taser out than your gun out, which sounds a little off to me, but
Yeah.
but yeah, still it's easier to, like, again, there's protocols in place, right? And this was just gross negligence.
Yeah.
And
So
like,
on that topic though, there's
Yeah.
two other points actually. Sorry that I wanted to bring up, just in case before we like divert a little bit further away, was the fact that well, number one, this happened, what, Nicholas, you said, just a couple miles away from literally the courthouse where the trial for George Floyd is currently happening.
10
So
miles
again,
away.
in 10 miles away. So literally, again, within Minneapolis.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
Not the same police department. I
repeat.
just want to point that out. Not the same police department. George Floyd was the actual Minneapolis PD. This was Brooklyn, like 10 miles.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's not the exact same police department.
Okay, but the fact that it's still within the same area, right? Sure,
Yeah.
different police department, but still, again, how many of these cases are happening within that same area? I mean, that's crazy.
I mean, she's
And
the
then-
president of the union of all those
Right.
cops in that area, so
Yeah.
they work together.
Not anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And the other point I wanted to bring up is the fact that, what would, and also in the state of Minnesota, there was a Caucasian guy that was, pulled over as well. And what did he do? He like, what was he, like fought back against the police or something, and they didn't shoot him or anything. So when it comes to Caucasians, police know how to get everything right. They know how to try to de-escalate. They're calm and collected, right? Because they have this sympathy for them, like my people, or they just don't feel like they're like threatened or whatever. But the second it's an African American, no matter how little and harmless, it was a 20-year-old kid, Dante, right? Skinny little kid. Yeah, 20 years old. And it also sucks because even more because he had a child that wasn't even a year old. I think that was his child.
Newborn. Yeah.
Newborn. Wow, crazy.
Yeah.
And when it comes to stuff like this, but then they expect us to excuse all of their mistakes that they make when it comes to African Americans or other minorities.
Yeah, I mean, again, cops make these mistakes and minorities are paying for it.
Right.
I actually have the video up of the white man that was resisting arrest. I don't know if you guys want to see this.
Yeah, let's see a little bit of it.
I saw that.
Yeah, so I'll just show it like super briefly. Let me just pause it right quick. I'll do a quick share.
Yeah, just hide your browser tabs.
We don't want to see Pornhub out there.
It's a holy month of Ramadan, and we'll be doing that for a while. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. So yeah, this is actually off of Sean King's page. So you see, this is actually, he refused to wear a mask, right? So what's happening is that he got back in his car. You see a guy with his assault rifle here, and as he drives away, the cop's still on the truck. The cop is still in the truck while the man is driving away, right? It is
unreal.
No shots fired either, right?
Yeah.
No shots fired. They didn't fire shots at the tires or anything, right? That's totally like no one decided to taser that guy. Like,
yeah, and so I mean that's the is the case is people talk about, well, respect the police, comply with them, and things won't escalate, and all this other BS. But what about when Caucasians don't comply?
Yeah.
And then then it's like all they go through the full checklist of, all right, try to de-escalate. We want to preserve their life. They're human. They have a family, whatever, this and that. But all of that goes out the drain the second it's a minority.
Well, I want to add one more point to that too. So cops are trained, right? Are trained for de-escalation.
And people forget that. Thank you.
Yeah, they're supposed to be trained. Civilians are not, right? So
Yeah.
how is civilians
Right.
supposed to be the one that's supposed to keep calm? They don't have the training, right? And they're watching the news like everyone else, right? They're seeing what's happened with George Floyd.
Well, okay. Well, I think this is actually so. Sorry to cut you off, but I want to bring up Lieutenant Caron Navario as well.
Oh,
Right now, you're talking about untrained civilians, right? And people trying to make this case like comply. What about Lieutenant who is in full military uniform? All right, this has happened here in the state of Virginia. Was down like Norfolk, I think, and he's come. You see in the video, for those that haven't watched the video, he has his window down. He has both of his hands out the window. You could clearly see that he's in military uniform, and then he announces that he's a lieutenant. He's an officer.
Yeah.
He is an officer serving the country. And, and it's when he says that, one of the cops, they already have their guns drawn, and one of the cops was like, I serve the country too. That's no excuse. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
Whoa,
and he's like, I'm afraid. He's like, I'm afraid. And what do the cops say instead of de-escalating? They said, you should be. You should be. That is not how you de-escalate. That's how you escalate. And then on top of that, the fact that, he was acting like he was more in even though he was in fear of his life, but he was perfectly calm and collected. He did not raise his voice once. And he was afraid to get out, afraid for his life. And instead of sympathizing with him, if he was Caucasian, he would have driven away without even a warning. Why was he even pulled over? Because
why bother? Why? Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service, sir.
Yeah, exactly. Because they couldn't see his tags, even though apparently they were visible according to body cam footage.
Mm-hmm.
And his windows were really tinted, and he was driving below the speed limit. He wasn't speeding, so they thought that was enough concern to draw their guns out and assault this man who's serving the country as an officer.
Yep.
What is the excuse for that? So now he's suing for, I think it's about like $1 million.
Only $1 million, huh? Okay.
Yeah, I know. I would have sued for more.
That's exactly what I said.
Family. So going back to the Dante case, George Floyd family just got $27 million from the city of Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder, like, how much money is this area going to keep spewing out for their incompetence, right? I also did hear, reportedly, right, that they spent $12 million on de-escalation training. So yeah, money well spent.
How good that did.
Yeah. So
I'm waiting for Governor Northam's official response, because so far, to my knowledge, he's been waiting. He said that just going to wait for an internal investigation to take place, and he's actually fairly liberal he's a fairly liberal Democrat. So I'll be curious to hear what he says.
That's the problem, though, because when it comes to facing the police union, a lot of people just fold.
Yeah, you're right.
Conservatives are all like, "Oh, thin blue line" and all that BS, right? But even liberals, right? Like even Biden, right? Isn't enough, right? Even though he's taking a more progressive stance, but still, we got to restructure. Have to.
Yeah. We have all these conservatives who think they're, all about, Blue Lives Matter. But then what happened during the Trump rally? I mean, I'm sorry, the Trump's, followers attacking, the insurrection attacking Capitol Hill. No. And then,
it's all
they're all like, no, F the cops, F the cops. Yeah. We had your side. They're like stomping on the American flag, burning it in front of these cops and stuff. And now they're back to that again.
Well, I mean, they killed a cop.
Support the troops or Blue Lives Matter? Like, which one is it?
Cop, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Brian Seidnick was his name. That's the cop.
Now it's two dead, by the way. Another second.
Yeah, well, there's been a couple cops that committed suicide afterwards too.
Oh, dude, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Capitol Hill cops?
Yes. Let me verify that. I don't want to get
That's crazy.
Facebook thing, but I think at least two cops.
Wow.
So, but no, Omar, great points about that. I don't know if you heard this story, but this just actually came out a couple of minutes. Nicholas is nodding his head. He knows where I'm going. Before, maybe 30 minutes before the show started, right? Adam Toledo, right? Chicago kid, 13 years old. They just released body cam footage. This happened.
Oh, wait a minute. Before you get on that one, I thought you were going to talk about the other one, where in South Carolina there was a black kid walking in his neighborhood. By the way, walking in his neighborhood, this huge guy comes out of his house.
I'll tell you the story on that one too.
And yells about how he's a whatever in the army, and he doesn't belong there. What are you doing out here in my neighborhood? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Get out of here! Get out of here! Like pushing this kid.
Yeah, the drill sergeant.
Yeah.
The drill sergeant. Basically, what this guy did to this kid. If any of us had done something like that to anybody, it would have been called assault immediately or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. But he's just pushing the kid out, and he's like, "Where do you live? Prove to me that you live in this neighborhood." It's like, dude, is just out here walking. Let
me get to that, right? Because I know the story on that one. I do want to talk about Adam Toledo. So this, I guess you guys didn't realize this one. So Adam Toledo was a 13-year-old kid that was shot March 23rd, right? In Chicago. They just released police footage of this not too long ago. I did not watch the footage of this one because this one seemed way more graphic than the other one.
Oh, geez.
But what happened was he was running. He was stopped, right? The police said, "Show me your hands." He raised his hands up, and the second he put his hands up, pop, right in the chest, right?
What? I can't watch that one. Yeah, I can't watch all the videos anymore. Yeah. I can't watch them.
Yeah, that's why I didn't watch the one with Daunte Wright.
Yeah, but this one's way more graphic than Daunte Wright, right? So this one, apparently his eyes was bulging out his head. It was crazy. So
13.
His name Adam Toledo. Again, just when you guys get a chance, take a look at this. Adam Toledo. So
it's crazy. Still a baby.
Yeah, 13. Still a kid. Got shot in the chest, right? Cop shot him in the chest when he had his hands up, right? So
that's almost twice the age of my daughter, who's about to be 6.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. So to the Jonathan Pentland, I think is his name. Yes, Jonathan Pentland. So as what Nicholas was saying. So here's the apparent story of what happened. Okay. So there was a black teenager, black 22-year-old. He's 22, 23, right? Walking in the neighborhood with a white girl, right? Apparently someone's daughter.
They were dating or something, right?
I don't know if they were dating. I'll just tell you this. I'll just tell you the story on how I heard it. There's more. This is gonna evolve, right? So I'm sure.
Oh, for sure.
We'll hear more details about this in the future. But so apparently they were dog walking together, right? And a lady, possibly the mom, or a lady saw the young man tug at her shirt, apparently, right? And thought it was some sort of assault. So what she did apparently was run out of her house, started yelling help, right, to her neighborhood, and apparently was running around the neighborhood. She came across Mr. Jonathan Pentland. I guess you thought he was being a good Samaritan, right?
Mr. G.I. Joe over there.
G.I. Joe wannabe. So goes up and that's where the video starts harassing the kid, telling him where are you from, and it gives you positive the Emmett Till situation, right?
Absolutely. Emmett Till vibes all day.
Yeah. And not even just that. I mean, there are videos of black people in white neighborhoods in the 50s being pushed and shoved and saying, we don't want you here, right? So back to what Nicholas was saying. Oh, where are you from? What are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be around here, right? And it was just a mess where this kid was just being harassed, and he pushed this kid and he was harassed. Now, thankfully, Mr. Jonathan Pentland got arrested, right? And I think as I was telling you, chap, his boss's boss is a black man, a 2-star brigadier general.
Boss's boss.
Yeah.
So
he's out of there.
And he was like, nah, we don't appreciate this at all. So this guy's also South Carolina. He grew up in South Carolina, the boss's boss, the black brigadier general. Grew up in South Carolina, went through racism, and it was not on my watch, right? So the Army's had its problems with racism in the past, right? It's good to see them
Yeah.
kind of step
Yeah.
up on this one. Again, the story
Marines
is
as
still
well.
ongoing. There's still a lot of talk about what actually happened. I actually don't know if you guys saw what happened to Jonathan Pentland's house, where like
Protesters surrounded that bad
just
boy.
shot at his house. I want to point out this though. They weren't there under false pretenses and they didn't break into his house, unlike the Capitol rioters did.
Right,
Wow.
right.
Just
Why they have more
saying.
control. I
Just
mean,
saying.
speaking of control too, I think that kid should be commended for not like. I mean, I know that guy was like way bigger than him, but I mean, the poise that he showed under that situation, he stayed very calm. And I honestly, yes, I may have gotten stomped out, but I'm not sure if I could have maintained that same level of poise, man. That is just, I commend that kid, man.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous. It almost reminds me of actually, and this one hit close to home. A friend of mine lives not too far away. His wife and daughter were at the bus stop. There's a bus stop on the corner. A few streets over. It happens to be on the property of a white person. They're standing there waiting for the bus. White person comes out like, "What are you doing on our property?" And he tried to explain that it's a bus stop. They're not having it or whatever.
Yeah.
Luckily, like the bus came up, but it was just like, why do we have to go through this? Yes, we live here. Yes, like not all of us are broken in the hood. Yes, we have money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're here. We're out here. We're going to be here. We're not going anywhere. It's ridiculous.
It is totally ridiculous and frustrating. And yeah. I from Dante to this kid to Adam Toledo, so much is going on with this, and we have to. It's not enough to pray for families, right? It's not enough to just condemn individuals, right? So the lady that killed Dante, where did she get? She got a misdemeanor second degree, which is like a very low charge. But where did she get? I mean, she should get convicted for starters because it was negligence. But that's less important to me unless they like try to make actual change.
Right. Exactly.
How many people
Yep.
actually have to die to you feel like to realize we got to start from scratch, right?
I said this.
Go ahead.
I'm honestly at the point where I think that because everything is different in every state, right? And I know that's like an important distinction for this country. But I'm getting to the point where I really do feel like there needs to be just like a standard set federally for certain things across the board. And then, the states can, after that, the states can do what they need to do. But like at a minimum, like with the laws that the governor in Virginia is trying to pass with, what's the second offense was a primary offense. Mm-hmm. Things like that just needs to be set at a federal level. And then we can move on from there, And I do think that the police force does need to be restructured.
Yeah.
Starting with determining whether or not everyone needs to have a firearm. I really don't think so.
So I remember AOC posted something months ago. Someone was talking to her, asking her about what does defund the police look like, or restructure defund the police, restructure police. I prefer defund the police, but whatever. What does that look like? And she talked about actual affluent neighborhoods, right? So think of like where I live, which is a fairly affluent neighborhood, right? I have community centers here, like 5 community centers, a community garden, like parks all over, like so much things that are done to be invested into the neighborhood, right? And we still have police, obviously, right? But we don't have these kind of problems because there's so much money invested in the community, right? There are cases where we invest more in kind of mental health officials, like helping members in the community, right? So much money can be used for that instead of militarizing the police. So
I don't know. I would have agreed with you a few months ago, but I think my perspective has changed. They have the training. They have it. They don't need it because they exhibit it towards Caucasians. Mm-hmm. They choose not to exhibit it towards minorities.
Well, my thing is not necessarily. So my point is looking at affluent neighborhoods, more money is spent off of the community instead of militarizing the police, right? And they do have specialists that are not police, right, going to de-escalate situations as well, right? So there was a case a couple weeks ago where this man had two instances, had a mental breakdown, and they had like a mental specialist come to his apartment. I mean, come to his house and was able to help his problem. Second time he had a mental breakdown, they had a cop come to his place and he ended up dead, right? And that's pretty much what I'm talking about, right? So what do we want to like invest in, right? And people are just gonna have to understand that no, we're not anti-police,
Right.
but we have to we have to rethink this the structure that we have here. And this structure, this thing with the police department's been happening for years. It's gonna take years to fix. Like none of us can be that naive to think it's gonna be fixed in like 3, 4,
Yeah,
5.
well, the police union is mostly comprised of ultra conservatives. That's the issue.
Yeah, that's another problem that they're gonna have to deal with, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's the biggest,
Yeah.
I should say, not the only, but the biggest issue.
yeah, yeah,
And I don't know how you can abolish something like that because let's just face it, that wouldn't be met very well. But that's an ideology that just needs to go. And this is an ideology that's been being fought in this country for over a century.
hmm
Yeah, I mean, some things are just in the DNA, man, and the culture of
Yep.
the police force is
Mm-hmm.
one of those things
Mhm.
that is going to be a very, very hard fought battle before that culture can change.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just,
The one good thing though is that we have people in Congress wanting to shoot for change. So we're better off where we
Right.
were 10 years ago, but we still have a ways to go, right?
I'll say that when I see something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fair enough.
I agree.
Fair enough. Well, all right, so we covered a lot of that. So, Omar, do you want to talk about the French hijab ban, right?
Yeah, and
Before you get too much into that, I want to just cover the news aspect of it, and I already discussed this with you really quickly, right? So, what happened was that the French Senate um, passed this bill, right? No one expects this bill to pass, but their goal is to reach out to people who have left their party who've gone even further right, right? So they're trying to reach out to the more ultra conservative people to bring them back, and so they're pretty much using this hijab ban to kind of do that, right? It's a frustrating, it's infuriating. So the ban pretty much will ban young women, right?
20 and under.
Yeah, young women up to the age of 18 from wearing hijab, right? And I want to point out that the age of consent of consensual sex in France is 15, right? What sense does this make? This makes no sense whatsoever. But Omar, I know you have a lot of things to say. You had a very spirited Facebook debate on your end. So, sorry to get involved, but yeah, by all means, please.
Yeah, no. So actually, just on that topic, so I actually just defriended, someone on my Facebook that was a previous coworker, and we were actually, pretty tight for a while. And then over the last maybe I think ever since I left that job back in 2010 or something, we weren't really in touch often at all. Maybe just a couple times a year, mostly through social media. But it's the fact that I'm cutting off people for their views, and I've always been someone that I'm willing to discuss, right, and not just start hurling insults and stuff like that, because how dare you how dare you insult my way of life, and then if no, it's not like that. I will actually take the time to discuss and have a debate. But this was different, and the points that this former friend and a lot of other people are making is pretty ridiculous, and I'll get back to that. But basically, so we're talking about as Sahid said, I almost said Nicholas, Sahid said, is it's a proposed legislation. Now, Sahid, you said that you think it won't. I don't share that same faith. I think there's a very good chance. Why? Because this has historically happened in France, a French, a country that has supposedly been, about like freedom. Like we have our Statue of Liberty, from France. And so I was just looking it up as you're speaking. The last time there was a law like this that was passed, which it was in 2010, and France had passed a law and it banned the wearing of full face coverings. So that didn't include. It says it was included, but not limited to burqas and niqabs, right? Which are either like the full face and head covering, or like the whole gown, which is usually just big, long, loose drapes like clothes that don't really, so you can't really see the silhouette of someone's like, someone's body. So, you don't have to agree with it. All right. I would never, I wouldn't want, I'm married, I wouldn't want my wife to do, to wear something like that. But if that was her decision, I would respect it 100%. And so it's the same concept that a lot of these people, and this is actually the argument that I got into with this former friend of mine on my Facebook recently, is well, the picture, it was a meme. It was showing a nun, in like, head covered and everything. And it was a Muslim woman, wearing like, like a full niqab. And it was like, if you support one, but not the other, you're, the problem is that you're racist. It just doesn't make sense. Yeah, you're a bigot. So the point that the guy brought up was that, well, and nuns aren't forced to wear those, whereas lots of Muslim women are. And so I was like, all right, well, I was like, all right, well, I'll debate with him. But then he kept throwing out like really, really silly points that just really didn't make any sense, and you could tell he was really just what a lot of other people have been saying is that, well, there are like Muslim countries out there that do force it, and that's why people are against women wearing hijab or niqab or whatever it is. But they're not like that with with like nuns or or anyone from like any other religions, where they have like any kind of head coverings or anything like that. And so let me put it this way. So, like where my family is from, from Pakistan, that is the country that separated, the partition from India in the late 1940s. It was like 1947 or something. And it was made solely for the purpose of Islam. Right? Pakistan is literally an Islamic country. I don't know if everyone knows that. So there are rights in Pakistan that are given to Christians, that are given to Hindus, that are given to Sikhs. And contrary to what the world sees, when you go there, they're very, very well blended in with the community. And there's a law there in Pakistan that says that you cannot force women to wear hijab or anything like that. There is no law there that says that. Why? Because, and I don't really want to get into like a really religious debate, but I will say this. So within the faith of Islam, one of the most important, verses, and this is in the opening chapter, by the way, technically chapter 2, but it's really the opening chapter. And this is chapter Surah Baqarah, for anyone that's wondering. And it states that there is no compulsion in Islam. You cannot force someone to do something for the sake of religion within Islam. Now, so then the guy is arguing when I mentioned that, the guys, and I was like, oh, most of the countries, Islamic countries, they don't enforce it either. They don't force it on women to do that. However, there is Iran, which does it. Right? Iran is more extreme in its, in their Islamic laws.
Saudi Arabia too, right?
I thought it was, but it's not. As of, I think maybe like 10 years ago or something, they abolished it in Saudi Arabia, where women are no longer required to cover in public.
Are you sure about that one? I'll have to look
Absolutely
it up.
sure. Yeah, you can look it up because I looked it up like as I was having that debate. So it's basically only it's Iran, and there's like one part of like Indonesia, right? Because Indonesia is very like partial Christian, partial like Islamic, and so part of Indonesia has requires it as well. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? You are taking away a right from a lot of women who choose to do it. So it is so basically it's like you're saying that you want it to be acceptable to be able to have like nude beaches and the women, walk around and like walk around the mall, like, like expose everything, and but it's not okay for, and I'm not saying either is right or wrong. Again, I'm pro-choice, right? And I'm not judging anyone, but I'm just saying, like, it's okay to do it on one side, but what about the women that choose to want to cover up, right? So that's my biggest argument, is it just doesn't make sense. You're a hypocrite if you support one but you're against the other. And this is, and one more point, sorry, Saeed, is that France is requiring you, right, to wear a mask. So you can wear a mask for COVID during quarantine, but you can't do this.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I was saying. Like, the people who made that law were right wingers trying to appease to former right wingers. The article that I read from the NPR said that it's unlikely to happen. But then again, you're right, Omar. Again, we never thought Donald Trump could be president. So
true, exactly.
Point valid there.
I mean, to me, this sounds like it sounds like it's similar to what happened in the States, right? As far as like,
yes.
You know, no dreads, no cornrows, no this, no that. You must look a certain way when you go to work. This is a standard of beauty as described by people of European ancestry or whatever. And it's like, you know, they're kind of doing the same thing in France here. It's like, you know, to make your culture more palatable to the rest of us, to make the rest of us feel safer, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And it's just, to me, it's just disrespect, honestly.
Yeah.
To an entire group of people.
I think my takeaway is that they're trying to cater to bigots, and that's the part that frustrates me the most, right?
Yeah.
We can't just say, no, you're wrong, and you need to, like, get down and lay down, essentially, to quote Beanie Single. Get down and lay down, man. Like, we're not doing this to others, right? But, you know, they're trying to get back into power, and this is kind of the same thing what I see with politicians here catering to Donald Trump, right? Who should be in jail, in my opinion.
I agree.
I think that day is coming personally, but that's probably
we'll see. We'll see. It's not like a white person's gotten away from the jail, gotten away before.
True that. True that.
So he's got away from a few things. But Omar, I want to comment a little bit quickly on your friend, and then we can move on to something a little bit more lightning. I mean,
yes, I was gonna say,
not as heavy. But so I've had to block a couple of my friends, using quotation marks, right? Yeah. They're not really your friends, the way I see it. Because like you, I valued disagreeing with people, right? Like having a debate, and like I used to think of like having these debates as kind of sharing ideas and learning from each other. That's not what they're trying to do. What it sounds like from your friend is that he didn't want to admit that he was wrong and kept like pressing on just things that are just not factually accurate, right? If you can't get the facts right, like you're at a point where maybe you just don't look stupid on the internet, or you're just trying to have the last word. But I've seen this so many times. Like I argued with my freaking high school algebra 2 teacher. My high school algebra 2 teacher turned internet troll, right? Typical like conservatives saying, "Oh, we can't say our opinions anymore." And it just got to the point where I just blocked him.
Please.
It's like, you got to be kidding me. The line was drawn when he was defending Gina Carano's anti-Semitic stuff.
Yeah,
right?
I remember.
And I was like, no. Like, we just had a Capitol insurrection, and that's your problem. Like, really? There's nothing to debate here, right?
They want to talk about stating their opinion until somebody like Colin Kaepernick comes from the other side.
Exactly. I don't see you defending them.
And it's a problem. Then it's a problem.
Like, some people just want to just be argumentative and disrespectful, right? I'm thankful that I have friends that I can respectfully disagree with, right? And still have those conversations and debates, and we'll still be friends afterwards, even if we vehemently disagree. So I know the difference between that and what these guys are doing, right? That's not what they're doing, right? Yeah. They're trying to promote their perverse idea, and they want to try to paint it as, oh, but that's my opinion. And they don't want the accountability of like how negative and how detrimental that them saying that can be, right? So yeah, they're not friends, unfortunately.
No, they're not. And And is another point I just want to say, I know and have known my entire life many women, Muslim women that have covered up. Some used to cover up and for personal reasons decided to change that, and that's entirely, you know, on them. But literally, like by choice, by choice. I'm talking about women who were never forced to it. So they are out there, and they are the far majority, unless you go to a country like where obviously where it's, you know, where it's enforced. But if you have a problem with it where it's enforced, you know, that's, you know, that's a different type of discussion. Then talk about that country,
Yeah.
or that, you know, that community or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, like when we were just talking about, you know, law enforcement, right? Nicholas, you made a good point. You're like, you know, it's a different state or different police district, and they're not all bad. Yes, you know, sometimes the bad apples, you know, get the highlight, but it's different when it's all around. It's everywhere. Then you realize there's an actual really big issue. And I have several friends that are either current or former law enforcement, and a lot of these are you know, really great guys. You know, they're not racist the least bit. A lot of them are actually minorities that I personally know. So it's not that, you know, we're judging all law enforcement under the same banner, and it should be, but there is regulation that needs to happen because there's a very real problem. But that's different because there's data that supports it. Now, when you start talking about, you know, banning, you know, head coverings and whatever, because it's supposed like, you know, supposedly for like safety or protection, or for like to, you know, for women's freedom, or, you know, whatever, things like that, you're oppressing the people of, you know, by forcing them that they can't make their own decisions. And that is literally a religious attack on a way of life. That's a very, very big, that's a very different issue.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to close on that note. Did you have something to say, Steve?
Well, yeah, to your friend, right? And we discussed this earlier about this, where he's making a judgment call based off of like a few people, right? It's
Right.
almost like me saying we should ban all white people because of like mass shootings, right? Or they might attack a Capitol, or they might harass a young black kid walking in the wrong neighborhood, or shoot another young black kid taking a jog in the neighborhood, right? So we don't go that far, right? So why do these guys feel so cavalier to, when it comes to someone who's a minority, or
Right.
like with this, they're saying, oh, we should just ban this, or are we okay with that? So that's just really frustrating. So
Yeah. Yeah, it is. So I think the great thing about this show, you know, this podcast, is that just because even just the little diversity that we have just between the three of us, right? And it's funny because you're kind of like both of us, like me and Nicholas mixed together, which is funny. So you actually probably would get it the worst, depending on where you are in the country or whatever. But I think that's
I'm what you guys are when you guys combine your powers, right?
He's Captain America. Basically, he's Captain America. No, not Captain America, Captain Planet. Sorry, that's what I meant.
Whatever, I'll take it.
I don't know if that was a backhanded compliment.
So Omar, so like for people who don't know, right? And I don't know if you said it before, but like, what's the significance of the hijab? Like, what does it mean?
Thank you for asking that. Yes, thanks for asking that. So actually, it's actually the same exact concept that comes from Christianity and Judaism, actually within all the Abrahamic faiths. So basically, it's, you know, the belief is that it's to protect your modesty, right? So this is a very tough topic to talk about out here in the West, where we're very extremely liberal for a big part, right? Even though we're talking about a lot of like conservatism, extreme conservatism, on the rise. But basically, so there's a important concept in the Quran, right? And it instills, it's supposed to be a way of life. It provides rights to men and to women, you know, to communities, and to leaders. And so there's this concept that clashes with modern thought that men and women have to have completely identical rights. In certain areas, yes, like, you know, salaries and, you know, workforce and stuff like that. But what the Quran really, I think what a lot of people don't realize is it recognizes equality, but equality does not mean identicality within Quran. So there are certain rights given to men, certain rights given to women. For example, the Prophet Muhammad, right, which is the prophet in the line of, Abraham, that's only recognized within Islam. His first wife was 15 years older than him. She was strongly independent, very, very wealthy, and used to engage in business dealings with men alone all the time. Whereas, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was, he couldn't read or write. He just had a really, really good heart, and he was well respected in his community, never lied or anything like that. But they got married, and he would always like help her up like on her horse and everything. And he respected her like no tomorrow. And even after they got married, he never, it was never like, now you can't go and talk to other men or anything. No, she kept doing what she was doing. And, so basically like, look at that for example, Muslims are supposed to live their lives in accordance with, the life of the Prophet Muhammad in most ways. But, when we're talking about, rights, for example, the traditional, just like in Christianity and Judaism, traditional school of thought in Islam is that the man is the care provider and the woman is the owner of the home. And so the finances of the home, everything at home, how the money is spent and everything, that's actually provided to the woman. That's actually the woman's responsibility, right? Like it's her ownership as part of Islamic faith. And the man is really just the caretaker, or rather, I should say, like the provider, for the family. So you have that concept, right? And so, like I said, this clashes a lot with a lot of, modern day, especially Western society, school of thought on this. But again, the reason I mention this is because it kind of goes back to the concept of women protecting their modesty. So what does that mean, right? So it acknowledges, in a way that women, men, and modern science backs this up, is that men react more based on, like there's a part of our brain, we have a larger part of our brain where we act more on emotion, or like a hormone impulse, right? Maybe not impulse. It's like the need for like, sexuality, or not sexuality, but you know what I mean, like the lust and stuff like that, right? But men should know how to control themselves at the same time, right? They should know how to control themselves. But women, it's expected that, that they should cover up. If they choose not to, that's their decision. But that basically wearing like the long clothes, basically, I don't agree with like covering the entire face. I haven't seen any scripture that actually specifically says the entire face or anything. At the end of the day, everyone follows in their own way. Yeah. A lot of people wear it on their sleeve, wear their faith on their sleeve. Some people wear it internally. Oh. And, this is, like I said, I'm a lot more liberal. I understand what is said within Islamic scripture. Whatever sins anything that I commit, I do it knowingly. Right. But I will never try to say that this is, argue what's actually in there. So I'm sorry if I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, but the whole context, the short answer was the too long didn't read is really supposedly to protect a woman's, not supposedly, it's to protect a woman's modesty, just like in Christianity and Judaism, same exact school of thought.
Right.
That's what's up. Yeah, I actually got a lot out of that. But one thing I did get out of that is that with the wife managing the finances, I have one question. Does your wife have you on an allowance? How does that work?
I did say I'm very liberal. Okay, I did say that. I did say I'm very liberal.
So, yeah, that means she has him on allowance on how much he can spend at Fusion every 3 days that he's there. I'm surprised you're not there now.
No, I think his allowance got.
All right, guys. Show's over. Falcon, Winter Soldier. We're talking about next week. We'll just, after episode 5.
Next week's episode, we're going to be having at Fusion. Omar's wife's going to like give him an allowance.
About us all to 5.
You're only allowed 2 hookahs.
Yeah, this is all she's gonna let me get.
All right. On that note, okay, we got through
a much lighter note.
a much lighter note, well, we got through our heavy section, but if we think we're done talking about race, we're not, because we're talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier. And like that series has been awesome to me.
Yes, every episode has been
awesome.
great.
I will say this. This is what I come to expect from comic book series. Nicholas, you're about to be upset when I say this, but this is what I expect from DC, and this is what Zack Snyder wishes he could be, right? But yeah, I know, I had to say it, but
let's just get let's get through all the BS. But don't worry, everyone. I'll edit this out the YouTube show.
Whatever.
For the channel.
Whatever.
We're gonna give Nicholas his new show. A new show. We're gonna call it The Target.
Yeah. No, but I'm sorry. This is what I come to expect from.
Restore the Snyderverse.
Don't. I can't. No. Anyway, I'm sorry I even mentioned it now because now he's like all on the Snyderverse. But this is what I come to expect from this kind of stuff, right? You know, it's a darker theme, right? Well, I wouldn't even say darker. I'll say more grounded. And based off of that, it's darker, but it's more grounded. Great action scenes, right?
We gotta talk about fight scenes.
The action is amazing.
Yeah, the action scenes are really, really good. Not afraid to like talk about race. And it's just been a great show that I've enjoyed to watch. I want to point out one thing. So apparently, do you remember, Omar, that we got this covered like things that we used to share between each other, right? So apparently, I don't know if you remember. Well, maybe you don't. He's looking at me like he doesn't remember. So it's fine.
I was just looking at some comments.
Yeah. No, so apparently, so do you guys remember episode 2 where they did the police stopped Sam and Bucky?
Yep.
And apparently it was reported by some conservative leaning site that at that point 84% of like the show's population like left. Of course, it's a BS.
Not even. Yo, 10 seconds. 10 seconds.
Of what? Toledo, Ohio?
Quick,
Or is it?
So look, here's the thing. It just shows that they're trying to kind of use whatever they can to undermine the great work that they're doing, right? I mean, obviously it's not true, but I want to point that out that there is an article out there from some conservative site that says that there's a lot of viewership lost off of this because of that particular
Lies.
It's bullshit. It's BS.
Yeah.
But you know, whatever. I think the last thing we covered was the episode 2, and then let's cover episode 3 and 4, and then we can talk about like what's going on. So episode 3, they got God, what's this guy's name? Baron Zemo. He's rich. Go figure. They go to Mandrapore, right? And they're trying to avoid like the power broker. They meet some lady there. So Sam's dressed up as like Black Tiger or something like that, which is an actual fictional.
That was hilarious.
Yeah. He's an
I didn't know that was based off an actual character.
Yeah, he's an actual character, Black Tiger.
And I like how he said, he was like, I feel like I'm dressed like a pimp. And Zemo was like, only in America would you think that, you know, someone's fashion is you know, speaks on their job or whatever, you know, whatever they do or whatever. I love that. I love that part.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I do want to talk about like there's a point where Sam like suggested the Trouble Man soundtrack to Bucky, and like Bucky's like, I didn't watch it yet. I mean, I didn't listen to it yet. And Sam's like, what? And then Zemo comes in, virtue signaling, and he's like, yeah, I mean, it's the soundtrack of like, you know, African Americans and what they're going through. And Sam looks at him and goes, okay, he's off base, but he's right on that.
Yeah, I know. I love the comedy in this show. Yeah. It is spot on. It is spot on.
Yeah, it's so good.
But it's also like, it's not over the top like some of the other Marvel films have been. Because I mean, some of the joints have been like straight up like corny ass sitcoms. Right, the writing in this one has been like spot on. Like if something's funny, it happens because it's situational. And it's something that someone has said, but it's not like a one-liner, like, and then you like you're waiting for like, you know.
No, it legit sounds like if there was like two guys like literally just roaming around, like chit chat, like like funny chit chat. Like it seems very organic, almost as if like they're
Like
just rolling the camera, as if they're just rolling the camera. And they're just allowing them to just like, you know, shoot shit. And it's just like
it's well done, it's well thought out.
very,
So
very well
done.
done.
That part was crazy. So they get to Madripoor, right? They meet, like, I forgot this lady's name, so they can try to find some scientist. Sam gets caught, lady gets shot, right? And it's just some crazy. Again, the action scenes are amazing. Like Bucky fighting people in like the club. I think it shows Baron Zemo doing the dance, him dancing. That's turned into an internet meme.
They released a version of the episode where he did like the full. It's like an hour of him dancing or something.
Yes.
Like that.
Yeah, I saw something like that on YouTube.
I don't know why I think of Omar when I think about that, but I just do.
I was waiting for that. That's why I was laughing.
My first thought.
I'm sorry. I don't know why.
That guy's hilarious though. I think this has been the only time I actually like partially liked him.
Yeah. So there's that part. So 1813 or not Peggy Carter.
Sharon.
Yeah.
Sharon Carter. That's her name. Sharon Carter. So she saves them. So she's apparently out in just Madripoor, like staying away. And her parts, like, so her thing has got me really interested. And that's where some of the stuff I want to discuss a little bit about. Well, she kind of got screwed over by like Steve and like the US and all that stuff. So
I wouldn't say Steve, more like the US.
Well, Steve kind of screwed her, right?
How so?
He made out with her when she stole him his gear, and then he went back in time and spent like a lifetime with her aunt, her grand aunt. That's messed up.
Obviously, he realized that she was related to the woman he actually loved. And I'm pretty sure he didn't think that he would ever have a chance to go back in time and be with Peggy, right?
That's true.
At the time,
that is true. Yeah, that is true.
Like,
that's a fair point.
I wonder why he's with Peggy. Does he talk about, I made out with your grand stepdaughter too?
Oh, I would certainly hope not, right?
It's like
kind of weird.
But when Sharon gets born, it's like, I make out with you later, like 20 years from now or whatever, some crazy stuff like that.
That's just weird.
There you go.
Moving on.
But anyhow, I do want to say though, about Sharon Carter, right? I thought her fight scene, when she was fighting out where all those big shipment containers are, that was phenomenal.
It was.
I love.
Can I get to that later though?
Okay.
I do want to.
Is that a top? Okay.
I definitely want to talk about that. I do want to talk about her mentality first before that fight scene happens, right? So when she saves them, brings them back to her condo or apartment or whatever it is, right? She starts talking about how like the BS of like the stars and the flags or whatever, right? Because she has a different perspective, right?
Yeah.
And when she's talking about like, because Sam gave up the shield, right? And she goes, you realize that it's all BS, right? Bucky, who holds his shield in like high regard because it's a symbol of his friend and whatnot. Sam giving it up because of what I mentioned in our last episode, imposter syndrome, right? Like he's like doesn't think that he can live up to it, right? Also, there's a racial aspect of it as well. And one of the things that came to mind with that whole situation, so you have Bucky thinking one thing, right? Of thinking of how high, thinking of that shield even really high. You have the fake Captain America out here who he owns the shield now. He has a shield now, so he thinks he's on a different level. We'll talk about him later. We have Sharon who thinks like, look, it's all BS. And it makes me think about the American flag debate, right? With people who kneel during an American flag. Well, some people like, how can you kneel during the American flag, right? It's supposed to be this great thing or whatnot. And the way I see it as how different people see that shield, right? People see the American flag differently, right? So that was kind of my perspective of how I understood it, right? Or that's what, at least what I got from it, right? Where not that Sam disrespects the shield or the flag, but kind of Sharon's perspective of well, yeah, it's all BS, and kind of how people are like kneeling during the flag. So that was my 2 cents on that. I don't know, guys, what you guys think about that as well, but that's kind of what I got from it.
I didn't even think that deeply on that. I think that was a really good point.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm like letting that sink for a second.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are parallels to that, to that particularly, and then flag kneeling. And there's a group called the Flag Smashers that they're fighting.
Yeah, and I especially liked how they were finding common ground with their ideology.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I thought that was interesting that they were doing.
So
especially with Sam doing that.
Yeah. So moving on too. Also, we talked about this too. You notice how Sam had his shirt off and like Sharon said that looks better. And I'm like, okay.
This is the third time Sahid has brought that up. He's extra excited.
I'm just saying, she looks pretty good.
I thought it was Ramadan.
I didn't say anything bad. She looks pretty good.
Oh my god!
Cover your gaze, brother.
Oh my god! Don't start. I've been single for like a year in my apartment by myself. Give me a break. Yeah, but so they try to meet this doctor. Shut up, Nicholas. I hate you.
Keep going. Keep going. I'm just sanitizing my hands.
What you doing there?
Hand sanitizer. Gotta stay clean during this pandemic.
Oh man.
I concur. Anyway, so they go see the doctor, and I see one of the best fight scenes probably in the series so far.
Yeah.
Carter going at people like just. Like,
well, they had freaking George St. Pierre in episode 1.
Yeah.
For anyone that doesn't know him, he's one of like the biggest like UFC legends.
Yes.
He's been retired for over like 10 years or something.
He fought Captain America in Winter Soldier.
Yeah, right in the opening of episode 1.
Yeah, no, he fought Captain America in Winter Soldier.
Yeah, he fought Captain America in Winter Soldier.
Yes.
On the boat.
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah, he was like, so funny. He was like, "You're just a shield," and then Cap was like, "Okay."
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead and Google that.
Go ahead, Google that. Google that. We'll continue. So.
No, I absolutely love that scene where she was fighting because, in some movies or whatever, they make it like, she'll just run up and like one shot some of these dudes and they'll be knocked out. This fighting scene was. I'm not a martial arts teacher like Omar is, right? He can speak to like how real it is. But for me, like the casual person who, did a little bit of fight training or whatever, this was like ultra realistic. This is like, hey, if this is what you should do if somebody has a knife or a gun and you have to fight someone, this is how a special forces person thinks in a combat situation when they are alone and they are fighting like 5-6 different people. I mean, you already know I want to do a episode where we talk about best fight scene in the MCU. I mean, for me, this is definitely
for sure. Yeah, it's up there. In my opinion, I would say that obviously the way she's using like a firearm and stuff like that's obviously way over dramatized. But as far as like the single one-on-one hand-to-hand combat that she was doing was really, really impressive.
Yeah.
I would, obviously you would change how you're fighting one-on-one when you're dealing with multiple people. But when she was doing like the one-on-one sequences during that, fight scene around the shipment containers, that was great. And I especially loved it because it's the type of training that I do, right? Which is like Japanese jiu-jitsu, which is stand-up jiu-jitsu, basically, if you want to look at it like that. And I thought that was really, really cool. It reminded me of the fight scenes from Ben Affleck's movie, The Accountant. I don't want to get into that, but
man, that's one of the best.
I think the actual most realistic fighting in a movie I've ever seen was actually from The Accountant, in my opinion. Most realistic and most entertaining.
Okay.
So this reminded me of that.
The Born Identity series has some good ones too, man. The camera work was shaky. But
let's table this conversation. So because we're obviously gonna have this as a
we got to come back to this in another episode.
So let's power forward. So all right, we're at the shipping crate. They kill the doctor right?
So so pause right there, right?
Yeah.
Because I've been wondering what Baron Zemo has to gain from being out here. Like they break him out. It seems like some of this stuff was premeditated on his part on how it kind of seems like he knew they were going to need him at some point, right? He was kind of prepared, didn't know when it was going to happen, knew something was going to happen. And now you get here and he takes his chance. Every time the hero, well, I don't say just the heroes, but every time like Sam and Bucky are distracted by anything, be it a conversation, fight scene, something happening in the distance, he immediately shifts over to whatever his own program is. Right. And you see him like walk around the lab, kind of check things out. And as soon as he has an opportunity, he shoots the doctor. And I'm thinking he wants the serum for himself, right? And then, well, at the time, that's what I was thinking. That was episode 3. That's what I'm thinking at the time. When he shoots old boy, I was like, wait a minute. You need him to make more so you can get your own group of super soldiers. So you can get your own Avengers or whatever, right? So I was like, okay, what were we all thinking when he shot the doctor like that?
I thought he was committed to his goal of like ending the super soldier thing. So he told Bucky while he was in jail, "It's like I can't leave my work undone." So
yeah,
I think he was committed to not leaving his work undone. It's interesting how he doesn't go after Bucky. Maybe he'll try to go after Bucky later because Bucky is technically a super soldier. But yeah, I think
I think it's part of that, but I think he's also trying to cover something up.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean,
he definitely has his own scheme going on right now.
We don't know. So yeah, let's move on.
Because remember, his dad in Ultron was doing work with who would become Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch. At the time they were called the Miracles, right? He was experimenting on him. That was his dad, or someone in the family.
Holy!
Are you talking about the MCU or are you talking about the actual comics?
In the MCU.
I don't
Ultron.
think in the MCU.
In Avengers Ultron, in the opening, when they go take down that Hydra Fortress, that was a Zemo. Baron Strucker. Yeah. But I think they're related somehow, though.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, and it's worth looking into for. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have.
I might be off base, but I thought there was some relation there.
Yeah. So yeah, let's move on. So he shoots the doctor. He puts like his mask on for like the first time and like shoots up some people. Kind of looks like a little bit of a badass. Jumps away in a car. They start flying to their next target, and they have another conversation about the shield. Sam talks about how like the doctor just talked about Isaiah as just another patient and not an actual human being or whatever.
Right.
Or whatever. And like they have that conversation about the shield again, right? And that's kind of where I kind of had that perspective. What I told you guys earlier, it's like the shield, the American flag, how people see it differently and whatnot. And yeah, they move on to their next target. Baron Zemo said something too that I thought was really interesting about the problem with what they do with people like Captain America is that they put him on a platform, right? And they see him as someone who can't do wrong, but they don't realize that people like him aren't perfect, right? Yeah. When you put these guys in like on a podium like that. Right? So I thought that was also really interesting. I think it's very in relation to what's going on in today's world.
Thank you. I was going to say that. And I was like, I think this is probably the best fitting Marvel show / movie, whatever, for our podcast, because literally like we're talking, especially because the main character, I guess you can really say, is Sam. Mm-hmm. And then, he's struggling with this concept of, the shield. And I didn't quite think of it like that until you just said this. See, the concept of the shield, but it's the American flag. It's this nationalist, not nationalist. It's this just concept of patriotism in this country as well. So, yeah, good point.
Can he represent the country?
Right.
Right. Can he be Captain America? Right.
Right. They say Captain America, but it's America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but one other thing I wanted to say before I think about to move on to episode 4. Mm-hmm. So when they leave the docks, there was a callback to Civil War, right? When they get in the car, You see Bucky get in the
Oh,
front
yes.
seat, Sam get in the back, and Sam's like, "You're not going to move your seat, are you?" And Bucky's like, "Nope." And that was a callback to the Civil War where it was reversed, and Bucky was like, "Can you move your seat up?" And Sam was like, "Nope."
You got some really good memory because a lot of these small details I don't catch.
Yeah, it's good. That was great. It's they. I also like how they seem to be getting a little bit closer too throughout when the series is
Yeah.
on, right?
Yeah.
They weren't that close at the very beginning, but they're like they're getting a little bit closer now. It's not a forced buddy film, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So it does seem pretty good. So end of episode 3, beginning of episode 4, we see Wakanda. Oya
Yes.
comes in here.
Yes.
Like, what are you doing? No, why'd you bring out Zemo? Like, he killed our king. Like,
Yeah.
what's wrong with you, right?
Yep.
Hey,
yo.
Let's get to that fight scene discussion really quick. Like, as soon as I'm waiting for you to get us there.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll skip a couple things. So they get to the fight scene, right?
Yeah.
So the Dora Milaje come up, and like John Walker like comes in and tries to stop him, and he's Mr. All Captain America's like, hey, you need to stop right now and do this, and Dora Milaje like show up, and they're like, Dora Milaje don't have any jurisdiction here, and everyone's like, oh, we gotta do it just whenever we want.
Yeah, I loved that.
The Dora Milaje have jurisdiction wherever the Dora Milaje happened.
That was awesome.
I was
was awesome.
And then like Sam's like, hey, you might want to take on boy here, Dora Milaje. Yeah, listen.
Dude, when she threw that spear through my man's like
yes,
the straps on the shield into the table.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
How about the guy's shield? He took his shield, right? Yeah. So do you know how Captain America does this too, where he kicks the shield up and like wraps it around his arm? She did the same thing, right?
Yep.
She took the guy's shield from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. And then like, and then he engages her like hand to hand, and she kicks his butt. She wrecks him.
Yeah.
And then he's like, but they're not even super soldiers, or what was it that he said?
That's exactly what he said. They're not even
super soldiers, right?
Yeah. And he was so like mentally disturbed by that.
Yeah, he was.
And then you see, where, like, then they get into, later on where he goes into the room. He shoots the girl, I forget her name.
Kylie,
the super soldier, Kylie.
Carly.
Carly, she shoots her. She ends up getting away, and then he takes one of the vials, the super soldier serum, and tucks it away.
Your memories mixed up. So what happens is Baron Zemo shoots her, right?
Oh, okay.
Baron Zemo shoots her, and he's trying to kill her, and then then Baron Zemo sees like the vials on the floor. He goes, "Is that what I think?"
And then he's crushing. Yeah, he's
crushing him, and then John Walker like stops him and sees one extra vial on the floor, and you see his transformation too, right? He's in a world of super soldiers, and I guess he's trying to be the best that he can be, but they also showed like a part of him like where he wishes he took like he feels bad for the position that he's in because he has like three Purple Hearts, but he doesn't feel like he deserved it. Like, he really saved lives or whatever. And if he had the power, that he'd be better, right?
His boy is his moral compass, though. Like when he has these discussions, his partner is always the ones that kind of brings him back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then even though he asked,
his partner said, "I'll take the."
I would take it exactly.
So I mean, maybe the intentions are good, or started to be good, but you see him like transforms like I don't belong to her. I'm not good enough. I have this shield. I'm supposed to be Captain America. I'm getting my butts kicked by the Dora Milaje.
Right. Well, that changes very quickly, right? So what does he end up doing, right? He ends up taking the vial, right? They don't show it, but then he's fighting one of the super soldiers, the guys, kicks him down the stairs. Sam is right there at the other floor, and he sees it. And so the super soldier then picks up like a big metal pipe and tries, he swings it at the John Walker guy.
Yeah,
and then and he's like this, bends it, and Sam's like, "Oh no, you did it."
Well, the super soldier, the guy, the flag smasher.
Oh no, he said the super soldier said it. Sorry.
He was like, "Oh shit."
Oh no, he was like, yeah, that's what he said, right?
He's like,
And
"Oh,
Sam is
shit."
looking at him. The camera goes to Sam, and Sam is like, you could see it on his face. He's like, he knows. And then so the guy runs away, the other super soldier, and the John Walker chases after him. He jumps through the window. I don't know if you guys caught this when he jumps through the window and lands on the car. How he lands with the shield down in that position. That was referencing how Captain America, when he would jump out of like a window or from high up, that's exactly how he would land too. And then what happens a couple seconds later? Catches a super soldier in the middle of the town square, and then he bloody like uses the shield, the American flag, right? The American like on the shield, and he's like, bloody. I thought he was gonna decapitate him, but he's just like, yeah, like very gruesome. And then he picks up the shield and his blood all over the shield.
The man. Shield, right?
And then the episode ends, and it's like, now, you know, is he an anti-hero, or is he really a true villain?
Well, I mean, I think in the
comics he's kind of an anti-hero.
Yeah, kind of a villain-ish type person.
Yeah.
But I see how he's going to lose his shield. I want to do a quick callback though, which you may have missed. So him bludgeoning like the soldier and trying to kill him, similar to Captain America versus Tony Stark, right? At the end of Civil War, he was kind of hitting him with his shield, right, to disable the art reactor. Once he disabled the art reactor, he like held it one more time but missed him on purpose, right?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. So there's a similarity.
One more rewind, real quick too. When they were fighting the Dora Milaje, you notice how they were able to disarm Bucky's arm like real quick. They built in some sort of failsafe into the Wakandan version where they could just disarm homie real quick. So I thought that was real interesting too, because Sam was like, "Did you know they could do that?" And he was like, "I did not know they could do that."
No, yeah, absolutely. That's another interesting part. So yeah, great episodes all around.
2 episodes left.
Yeah, it sucks.
2 episodes
left. I know. Only 6.
Yeah. Actually, it's gonna be only 1 after tomorrow, right? Because what's episode 4? Tomorrow's episode 5.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I think these series are genius, man. Like having these mini series like this, because you want to cover everything in the movie, right? But you can't because you know some studios and WB try to like keep it at 2 hours or whatever for whatever reason. And in that time frame, you can't always tell your whole story. And this allows you. It's not a 20 episode season like some other shows are, but 6, 8, 10 episodes. Plus,
even. There's very little gap in between like these series now, and everyone's like they're keeping everyone occupied, so they're constantly watching Marvel all year round now.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's great. I think it's cool because I think this is going to be so well done in the sense that when you see Sam in a movie, you'll have context of like how he's able to get the shield, but you don't necessarily may have to watch that movie or that miniseries to get. Now, WandaVision might be a little bit different because
I had to watch about if you stayed with it, you were happy, but if not, I mean, you were like.
But when you see Wanda again in like the MCU, you're gonna have to have watched WandaVision, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Have to, right? Like you're gonna want to. Why is there a gray vision? Like what's going on here? Like you have to have watched that show. But yeah, that's pretty much what we got.